morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are watching us live or in the replay. And so welcome to this conversation, actually a continuation from what I did last month, Amplifying Minority Voice, or why DIB is matter more than ever than before. So today, I have some pretty wonderful guests with me. Um, I have Shree, I have Melanie, I have Iliana. Before I go to them, I just thought let's start with saying, well, this year team for IWD International Women Day team is on Accelerate Action, which I felt was particularly timely as we navigate a rather challenging landscape for diversity initiative because we are seeing, for me, I always see this majority and minority dynamic playing out everywhere. If we observe a little bit from that broad room to even to the global state that we are seeing as we witness in a pretty recent US and Ukraine discussion, reminding us how power imbalance can shape whose voices get heard. So today we'll explore why minority perspectives matter and how to ensure they are valued even when institutional support fluctuates. So we'll look beyond the gender, of course, to examine how majority minority dynamics affect multi-dimension of diversity. So with that, I'd like to introduce three of my lovely guests. Okay, I'm going to start from my left, Shree. So Shree is in Singapore. She has more than 15 years of experience ranging from banking, fintech, and a high-tech sector, spanning, of course, MNC and startup, and specializing in human resource. And that cover HR, business partner thing, talent acquisition, L&D, diversity. God, that's lots there, God. Equity, inclusion, and IT. And she's currently the APAC HR Business Partner covering for pop sports and corporate function for Riot Games. I shall not take out her degree, so you can look at her profile here. And the next guest I have, which is Iliana. She's a workforce visionary. She has been a force in the workplace development, a trailblazer in a registered apprenticeship, a champion for creating opportunity where others see barriers. And all the more, this is a good conversation. How can she be the champion for the minority? And the last one, Melanie, is a collaboration strategist who specializes in business attraction, event success, give incentive, and trust opportunity for inclusive organization and team who love to solve problem for all culture, gender, and generation. Oh, wow. What a good combination we have here today. And with that, I'm going to jump back to what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to cover 4 areas as per my agenda. So discussion will cover the reality of the minority experience, the value this perspective bring, the challenges we are seeing, especially in relation to what happened in the US and an impact to the rest of us, of course, followed by some actionable steps to amplify minority voices. I know there's lots to cover. So I'm going to jump straight in to talk about understanding minority spirit. So where exactly is minority? So I had a little bit of Google and they come up with this definition. It's actually say any small group in society that's different from the rest because could be of the race, the religion, the political belief, it could be even gender, it could physical difference, mental difference, which is spectrums, or any person who belongs to such a group. So these are all in according to Cambridge Dictionary. And with that, we have also seen research have found that minority often experience cultural taxation, where they're expected to educate others or have to represent the entire groups. So I'm wondering what are your thoughts or experience on this? And the mic is yours, and who like to start this on that? Oh my God, you guys are quiet.
Aries, I just had a reset, and my reset is around an amazing vacation. So a vacation on a cruise in a charter with run by a fantastic organization that might fit your definition of what you just said as a minority voice. And what they reminded us during the week in an amazing, supportive community filled with fabulous energy, filled with love, filled with care, filled with respect, was that we're not the minority. We are all members of the human race. We are all members of the human race, different shapes, different sizes, different ages, different genders. And what I loved about the vacation was not just the different definition of community. And for those of you who know me well, you'll laugh because Monday's live stream is on the power of community with an amazing guest, Tiffany English. But what I loved was the reset that this alternate, amazing, supportive reality that we lived in for over 168 hours. The challenge was, the invitation was, take that home and ramp up the energy. Bring it into your community, bring it into your workplace, bring it into your family, bring it into your life, bring it into your world. And Aries will acknowledge, I'm the one who had a little bit of an issue with the word minority in the title. I understood exactly where you're coming from a perspective of Women's History Month, but we are all members of the human race. I was so reminded of that. Different cultures, different countries, different dialects, different ideas, different landscapes, very different lives. We all lived in different places, different communities, different countries. And one day they had a parade where everybody was able to participate. And I think that part of inclusivity, we miss that in the world. We point out that, oh, my eyes are brown, your eyes are blue. We point out, oh, my hair is red, your hair is brown, your hair is black. Oh, your eyes are shaped differently. And what I'd love to just suggest, and I'm really trying to channel it, and granted, I'm less than 3 days back home and not quite home yet, but was to carry that invitation, that torch to light up our voices. We all heard each other. We all saw each other. We all felt each other. We all accepted each other with respect.
Uh, Mel, you have gone on mute.
All right. Well,
As you would,
let me just piggyback on what Miss Melanie said as well. I consider myself a minority leader, but that means for me, I am a leader for everyone out there, not just for those that look like me. I have to, if you're a leader, you can't pick and choose who you're going to help in the world. At least my journey is not like that. Whatever color you are, whatever religion belief you have, whatever even political views you have, if you need my help, I will be there. And that to me is a true minority leader. So I'm kind of along with Melanie. You know, we're having a lot of shifts in our government that's coming down the pipeline, and not everyone can stay focused on their journey. There's a lot of opportunity right now to bounce back and piggyback on, I'm a minority. I'm this color and I've been through this and this is where I'm going and this, but that doesn't resolve into a solution. It lets people get things off of their back. And I get it, right? We all need that punching bag. We all need that group of friends to support us no matter where we're at in life. But for me, a true leader, regardless of if you're a minority or not a minority, serves everybody. In particular, at a moment in time now where, yes, because I am minority, we're getting doors slammed, we're getting doors open. But keeping track of where my journey is, which is not a minority journey. It's not that I serve this community or that. It's that I'm openly serving everyone. It's not, it's not an easy thing that you go around and you talk about it. I think, we're one of the few individuals here on these panels talking openly, having line conversations about what the heck has happened. Right? I mean, I'm talking about FOBO at 10 o'clock and how it's correlating with all the government changes. Like, a lot of changes occur, and sometimes we forget our journey. So that's where I'm going to end my 2 cents on this beginning of the conversation.
I'm hearing, thank you for extending what Mel have said. I'm hearing, and I did put in the comment is different, but not minority. And I really love that. We are all different size and shapes and gender and colors, whatever. But as a leader, the leader is for everyone and serve everyone. Yeah. And I know Sweet, we're going to jump in.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks to Mel and Iliana for kicking off this session. I think when I was reflecting on the title as well, how I saw it, and this is probably very sort of high school kind of terms that I'm using, but I'm just breaking it down by saying there is the inner circle and then there's an outer circle, right? I think, and this could apply to race, religion, abilities, gender. There's so many spectrums that could be. And I think what people often forget is that you can't always be in that inner circle. We all fluctuate. It's fluid, right? You could be inner, outer, but it's the experiences that we carry with us. And if I were to look at sort of my experience, again, and Aries, there's like in Singapore, there's a lot of talk around DEI, but typically when the word minority is used, there's always a racial connotation to it, right? And then it becomes like, but it's not just race. There's so many other sort of avenues and angles to look at this. And I still do think this is a bit of a sensitive topic, at least in this part of the world, because it contains so many different perspectives. And people start going like, we don't have that problem, do we? I don't think so. And then you often have to be sort of, again, the educator or the one who shares your experience to go like, well, I'm glad that has not been your experience. But again, this has been my experience, or this has been someone I know this has been their experience, right? And I think I like what Iliana said earlier about being a leader, but being a leader for all. It's not just representing a particular group or a particular perspective, but is to provide different angles to view a subject. It is about talking about different experiences, and so that we're not siloed and thinking experiences are all the same. And I think that's how I'm viewing this topic, right? I think what you have mentioned, Aries, about how there's been so many shifts globally in the past recent weeks, days, months. There are a lot of shifts, and people are having several conversations about focusing. One part of the conversation is about, should we start focusing on us, mine, ours, or should we still keep that open perspective where we look and include everybody, because that may not necessarily help everybody. So I think it's important to stress the narrative of creating safe places, having an opportunity for everyone to share their perspective and experiences, so that everyone is thought about when a decision is made, or at least felt heard. I think sometimes, given all the circumstances we're in, people may feel like their perspective is not heard at all. So that's the lenses that I want to bring into this conversation.
Swiss, and I like the analogy of the inner and the outer circle. And I think the word keep coming up, the word a difference. We're definitely different, but it's again how do we view the perspective of different? And that kind of bring us to the next segment that the segment of the value of having this different perspective, or I say the diverse perspective, right? Well, I think for decades, the business case for diversity has been building up and extend far beyond just moral imperative to measurable comparative advantage. Because when we see that when organization embrace that difference, particularly from those on that smaller, I'll use the word smaller now, I won't use the word minority, smaller in size and community, they don't just fulfill a moral obligation, they gain a significant comparative advantage. There are a lot of reports and things that we have seen that. Love to hear what is your thoughts about what do you think actually get lost when that minority perspective or people in the smaller group aren't included in, like, say, the decision making? What would happen?
I can take a step at this first. I think, again, I go back to the word that I used earlier, which is perspectives, right? I think any decision, let's take an organization, for example. Surely there are different shades and tones of people with different life experiences. And I think when their perspectives is not taken into account, the decision making or the decision made might just feel like this doesn't apply to me, or this feels like there's a bias that could have impacted this decision making. I think as someone in sort of the human development arena, one of the things that we keep hearing is, well, have you considered X, Y, and Z? Because there's always, and I like to use this term of intersectionality, right? Because we come from so many different points in our lives that we bring different experiences. And a very good example that I would like to use is typically when we talk about there's the parental leave, there's childcare leave, there's a lot of different leaves that we have over here in this part of the world. There are questions from people who are single but caring for their parents. So they're like, well, hey, there's all these great benefits that you have. Which category do I fall in? And that's a very valid question because this goes back to the inner and outer circle, right? People might be focusing on their definition of what a family is, or their definition of who should be getting a certain benefit versus who's not. But again, that's where different perspectives come in, right? And this is years ago, but I have this example where this was a MNC, and we had benefits sort of extended to their spouses. And this is almost like 10 years ago now. And at that point in time, we had a partner who was of the same sex. And then what happened was, I remember the benefits provider was like, this is back in Singapore, they were like, oh, we can't extend this benefit to this person. And then I was like, well, why not? Oh, well, we don't recognize same-sex sort of partnership or marriage here. And then I was like, okay, I understand that could be a definition, but I still don't see what's the legality behind not allowing this to happen, right? Then we had several conversations. I had to do documentation. And after all of that, and a very forward-thinking business partner that I partnered with then, the decision was reversed. And the same sex partner was also given the same benefits. So that's the point that I'm trying to make here is perspectives make changes. Perspectives allow you to review certain things and go like, does this make sense or not? And I think until those perspectives are not in the conversation, you're not going to be able to hear the other side of the story. So that was a huge sort of learning for me because I was able to turn something around. It wasn't beneficial to me, but it meant the whole world to someone else. And I could see why. And again, that's why I keep going back to perspectives, offering a safe space to have that perspective, which could be heard so that a decision can be made, reversed, or maybe at least reviewed to see if we are doing the right thing.
Shree, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of organization, corporate perspective, or the corporate organization where we all used to come from, whether we're still there or not still there, no, you're still there, is when they roll out benefit level, it's more for that outer circle, if I call that, or for the majority, because they didn't see the minority. Like I say, what get lost Yeah, I know that we don't want to have that minority, but the fact remains there's still different size and shape. And when that size or the shape is on that smaller group, what happened? Do we get to see them? And when we don't get to see them again, then what happened? So intersectionality that you say, then the parental and childcare, what happens? Yeah, and until all the perspective, whether you are triangle shape or you are square, you're round, you're oval, or you're max, whatever shape that is, get to that surface, you will get lost. And yeah, Mel, you have anything you want to jump in on that?
In addition to what Shree is saying about perspectives, I think it also has to do with the elements. I think all the time, if we think of it in chemistry and we think of it in formulas and we think of the compositions of our communities, there are a bunch of different elements in addition to the perspectives. Every perspective can be changed by an element. It can be changed by a story. It can be changed by a voice. It can be changed by an energy, by a person, by welcoming an idea, by inviting someone else to sit at the table. So I think the perspectives and the elements, if we remember, we're all ingredients in some magnificent recipe that someone may decide to serve today, whether it's vegan, whether it's gluten-free, whether it's, totally plant-based, whether it's farm to table, whether it's a chef's amazing meal. We're all part of that recipe, of that mix. And I think the perfect mix, it's one of the reasons why I will always have the word inclusive in terms of leadership, because as Iliana and as Shree and as you're reminding us, we're not just here to serve others. We're here to take care of each other. We're here to take care of other humans, to help them find opportunities to flourish, to develop, whether it's human development, whether it's personal development, whether it's leadership development. But if we're here really to celebrate the possibilities, we need to really, like Shree says, pretend those perspectives are a kaleidoscope. I used to be fascinated by those as a kid. You can change the colors, you can change the light, you can change the view, you can change the scent, you can change the environment, you can change the atmosphere. So again, I want to thank you for inviting us to reapproach this from a different lens. Iliana's got that amazing lens of artificial intelligence, something she helped encourage me to change my perspective of how I looked at it, of how I approached it. What was artificial was my fear. That wasn't natural. And I think sometimes we have to look at that. I don't bring fear to any other equation. So I removed it. Now I can look at artificial intelligence and look for the intelligence. Look for what feels authentic. Look for what feels genuine in it and discard the rest. I think that's the part in the ingredients or the recipes. You might slice up vegetables and there's a vegetable we discard. We wouldn't eat it, so we won't serve it. One of our family members is allergic to it, we won't consider it as an ingredient. And I think that's the way to look at it. What creates the perfect mix?
And let me just add on. I wrote here, take care. I don't know if you can see it on my sticky note here. I'm having camera issues on my end as well. Right now in our workforce, our leaders are carrying heavy loads, no matter where they're standing in all these policies. I don't talk fluff, right? And so when Melanie said take care, as an employee, that's what you look for, right? You look for a boss, you look for that environment where you go and you feel like you're being taken care of. which it could be the flexibility that your boss gives you to work at home, the flexibility to get off early to go to that soccer game or to go to church services on Wednesday. Or, when you're not feeling good, you don't have to write a whole paragraph. You can just say, I'm feeling under the weather. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Respect your space. And right now, leaders are in task of having to create these massive policies and not just small LLCs. We're talking about 500 Fortune companies. A lot of those 500 Fortune companies behind in the everyday, strategical plants where all their logisticals happen and their products leave. They're probably about 75% of what we're calling minority, right? And so, how do you now, as a leader, having to come up with a policy and meet government guidance? Because if you don't, no one wants to get fined. And that's the end. No one's talking about what happens if we don't. Right now, we've heard for the last couple of months, this is what you have to do. But because we're all business leaders, we know that sense of, oh no, we got to get this done and we got to get it done now. But it's important and it's something that I hold on dear in my heart, is that you have to consider everyone in this policy, regardless if there is a English as a US federal law now. You still must consider these populations when you're conducting any kind of policy. You still must consider your minorities that are going to be affected when you write this new DEI policy. That doesn't mean you disclude. It just means that you have to put your innovative hat on, maybe bring up ChatGPT, ask it for some guidance. There's no reason why our policies have to be so hardcore where, our workforce pipeline is stopping slowly but slowly. You have your group of what we call limited English folks that have worked in different facilities and now are deciding to abandon ship on their own because they don't want to get caught up because they live paycheck to paycheck. Or guess what? I'm going to go to now to an employer that my friend is saying DEI hasn't affected us. We're going to keep on pushing. We've just changed the terminology on our policy because we don't want to get fined through our government eyes. So, you know, I always tell there's you know basic policies. You're going to audit. You're going to audit. You're going to throw out that audit. You're going to reflect on what your findings are. You're going to come up with an action plan, and then you're going to execute it. We can't get stuck on thinking about a plan, getting feedback, and then we sit on it when we realize, dang, 95% of my team here is minority, or 75% can't speak English. What the freak am I going to do? Maybe you were a leader that hung out in your office. Maybe this is a check time for you. Maybe it's a check time for those that have been delaying on learning English to say, hey, I got to learn English. I know there's employers out there that have classes inside of their industries so their teams don't have to leave, don't have to worry about childcare, don't have to worry about paying any kind of tuition. So, more than ever, if you're an innovator out there, and if you're not, you're going to have to be if we're going to keep this workforce pipeline going. I mean, and when I say that, I say in general, right? We got tariffs that are happening in the world. That's going to take an impact on those that can buy fruit and vegetables. I made a post about it before, our prices in the economy started going up. Things that you hear, you got to start paying attention. You can't walk around with blinders in your eyes and, things in your ears so you can't hear. Yeah, you got to get those emotions out. But you also got to keep moving if we're talking about our economy in the workforce, especially not just in the United States, because all of this is trickling down. I have people overseas ask me, "Oh wow, how's the US doing now?" I don't like to feel like it's a pity question. We're not a pity country. I wasn't born first generation American for me just to bow down to decisions that I don't agree with, especially in the force and the power that I stand on currently. You know, everybody knows what their journey is. And for me, as you can see clearly, is to be able to talk about major decisions that are happening in the government pipeline, but hopefully in a way where people can maybe get that aha moment and think about it a little bit differently than maybe what their counterparts. Maybe if you're not having that solution, I suggest remove yourself out of that group and talk to someone that maybe doesn't know you. Hang out in a different group so you can really get the vibe. If you're a leader and you're working in these high facilities where you have massive minority population, LEP, and you don't know what's going on in your plant, this is a time to raise. This is a time for you to come out, walk the floors, put those rubber boots on, put those safety glasses on, get on your safety mode and go out there and see what's really going on. Because if we're talking about our workforce pipeline, we got to make sure we take care of everyone, even our leaders. Our leaders are having sleepless nights out there. These are not easy decisions for a lot of our leaders. Some of them, hey, kudos to you, you can breathe, you can live without missing a beat. But for most leaders, we've had to kind of step back, reinvent ourselves, grief a little bit, and move on. What I don't want to see happen is for our world to stop because we're stuck in that grieving mode, right? Where everybody's pointing a finger at you this, you that, you that. I play with AI. I posted a Trump video yesterday, I think it was, or yesterday, whatever, and I debated and I thought, that's going to be a little controversial, me putting my logo and him signing a bill and him sticking it out for everyone to see. But no, I felt like, you know what? I need to tell the world that's part of my checklist. I still dream about going to higher places because I need to speak the truth. People need to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's why we offer platforms where people can come and pick my brain out there. Because just because these changes come out and they don't rub us the right way, what government policies rub us the right way? Right? Language, English being a federal standard now in the US, English has been in the books for a long time, a long time. Now it's just federal, right? So we can't act like we're brand new. Sometimes, we act like we're brand new and we get that, that okay, well, now you got to catch your breath and we got to keep going. And I'm blessed to be able to have open conversations in that platform. And if you don't agree with me, that's great. We don't have to agree to agree. We can agree to disagree and keep on pushing, especially if we're all focused on moving our world forward.
Thank you, Leon. Before, I just want to do a quick recap because we are actually talking about the value of diverse perspective. And you have jumped one step ahead of me, so I'm going to pull back a little bit. um, Shree has started to share about so important about perspective and when every perspective, and then I think Mallory have given a beautiful analogy with that we are all ingredient, part of the recipe, and every perspective can be used by a person, by idea, by invitation to change with their elements. So I really remember that the perspective as the element of the value, of the diverse value. And when we are that different, we're not just here to serve, we're here to take care of each other. That is the value and celebrate together. And that bring us to the next session where and you bring us ahead, which is what I want to talk about, is navigating today political climates. I know with Trump policy, I know DEIB initiative in the US have gone through tremendous challenges. Even the work that I was doing is as a coach when we work with because the platform that I work with is actually better up, so we are also impacted. So and if you work for a US company, you may not be in the US, it also get impacted. Um, yeah, I mean, just example, right? They're talking about like there are 14 big brands that have announced they will withdraw support. this year from that whole DIB initiative. If you work with the government, you cannot send them any DIB material. They can't talk about it and all sorts of things. So things are really happening in US, and there is that ripple effect to the other part of the rest of the world. So I'm keen to hear. I think Iliana share with us what's happening in US for workforce. It's just the pipeline just have to keep on moving and not get stuck there. And I know, Shree, you're actually in the Singapore, in the Asia region. Just want to hear what is happening on that part in Asia or Singapore in particular, in terms of that impact from the US.
So again, I think this can be divided into different sort of segments and the stage that the company is in. I think if you are an MNC that's headquartered out of the US, that's global, there is definitely an impact in regard to perhaps pausing the activities that you want to do or rethinking what we want to do, or basically aligning, hey, what's the focus going to be, right? But that is purely, and this is my take, I think that's from a event perspective. It's not necessarily going to stop, again, and I think I've mentioned this before, it's not necessarily going to stop the actual conversations that happen day to day in terms of like what Iliana brought up about hiring, right? You're never going to stop that conversation with the hiring manager about, hey, have you had a diverse slate of candidates that you have looked at? And what's the current state of pipeline of candidates? Do we have? How is your current team looking like? Is there something you want to switch up or turn around? And those conversations still exist. So I think at a macro level, yes, if you're an MNC headquartered out of US, there is impact on maybe at a strategic events base, but hiring perspective, from internal sort of movement and promotions, that part of things still keep going, right? And you still do have that lenses on in terms of like your day-to-day conversation. I have a manager who might come up to me and go like, hey, Shree, I actually have someone in my team who actually wants to come into office every day because his working environment back home is not working for him or her. Then what are we going to do about it? Are we going to provide some sort of program or transport allowance? Like those kind of, I would call it BAU, business as usual conversation, still has the lenses on, right? Of course, I think there are the startups in this part of the world in Asia, which I feel not that maybe they're shielded from some of these things because again, they're headquartered out of Asia and I think they focus on sort of what's happening here. But I think to your bigger thing that you raised earlier, Aries, about tariffs and the impacts. So that's become like a household conversation, right? There are a lot of people talking about that. What would that mean? And again, I don't think any one of us is truly shielded, but I just think it's about how big or smaller the impact is, right? So there are people who are talking about, ooh, with this, what is this going to mean for our, I don't know, business partners who are interacting with over there? Are we going to have challenges? There's a lot of business related conversations on pricing, cost increases. Is there going to be another impact for workforce? How are we going to have a distributed workforce? Again, there's business related conversations which are tied into humans as well. So again, like I'm saying, we can't run away from the topic, but I guess it's about the shielding and how much of an impact it has.
Well, I think I hear one unified word is ongoing. Whatever Trump have decided on the surface, things are happening, and a lot of things have happened actually, even in my context on the work that I'm doing. But it's definitely ongoing. I mean, in the US, like what Iliana have shared, workforce pipeline have to keep going. We can't get stuck here. And Sri said, household conversation is better of that impact, how big and how small, and in the interaction, what does that mean? Mel, any thoughts from you as in like how can we maintain better momentum on this so-called inclusivity with this whole, we can't really talk, but there's something that needs to be spoken.
In the spaces that I'm in, I'm grateful that the really honest, transparent, vulnerable conversations are there when we show up as fully present. As I was mentioning before we kicked off today, you know, I'm on a board that's our federal funding is under fire. And on Sunday, we raised a record amount of money at our annual fundraising event. And I loved it because Iliana mentioned it's happening all over. If that becomes the new trend, that we're now paying lots of attention to all of the others in the room, around the spaces, and we're discovering ways to help each other. If that's become the new communication thing, how can I help you today? How can I support you today? What is one change that you are working on that I can initiate? My amazing mom is about to go out to the center, and I'll ask her, what's one thing I can ask you to support you today? And I think that becomes the question, to change our orientation, change, as Shree said, change the perspective, change the lens. Look up, look out, look right, look left, look forward. In the old days, and Aris and I had a live stream about this, we talked about the difference between feedback or feed forward. If we're helping each other get the nutrients we need to keep moving towards our goals, we're showing up fully present. And that, I think, needs to be the difference. How can we communicate our willingness to help each other, to care for each other in a new way? Maybe you didn't say it before. Iliana wrote a beautiful note before. It's the reminder. We hear it, say it, share it, amplify it. As Aris is saying, amplify voices. What can I do to help your voice be heard today?
That's a really beautiful transition to the next part, but I really love some of the word I'm going to quote here. It's happening all over. I think Iliana had kind of voiced it out again, that is ongoing. We move on, and probably the change is kind of from that officially in the book. You know, now it's become not in the book, but it's probably happening even more. The new communication about changing the orientation. We look up, we look right, we look left, we look forward. And it's really the new way. And it's really even more conscious, aware of what's happening now. How can we better share and amplify? And that brought us to kind of our final segment here, is what is the actionable step that we can really amplify these minority voices? We have kind of covered it here and there. But I would like to maybe put it a little bit more focused from your perspective. Maybe just give one specific practice you have seen very effective amplifying minority voice, or what as what in your perspective the individual from the major group can be better in ensuring minority or inclusivity happen. I mean, I'm posing two questions. Whatever that sit right for you, just share from that. What is one practice that would be useful, or how can the majority help the minority voice be amplified? The stage is yours.
Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention.
Pay attention, pay attention. I love that. Shree, what is one specific practice you have seen effective, or what can an individual from majority group help in better ensuring minority perspective are heard?
Be curious.
Ask
questions, be curious. I think that's where it all starts, because the more we make assumptions that we know or that we assume, it's just not going to help anyone. So I would say be curious, ask questions. And maybe the final thing would be create the safe space in whatever role you are as a leader or a team member, whatsoever, to allow people to share their experiences.
Melanie, do you have anything you want to add on? Yeah, paying attention, curious, asking questions, and definitely as a leader, having that safe space for people, especially for people of the smaller group, the minority voices to be heard.
I just want to add, we got to remember to include and not disinclude, right? We got to include everyone in this policy. We must own up to what our workforce looks like, adjust these policies, and don't leave anyone out, right? I mean, there's creative ways to make these policies. Just think outside of the box and listen to what your team is telling you, right? Don't phobo yourself into being stuck and not being able to make a decision and move on it.
Yeah, includes, and still include. Yeah. So I think to be inclusive, we need to start paying attention and of course being curious and ask questions. Because humanly we have assumptions. I mean, don't have assumption. That's how we all make. So being curious, being attention, and probably creating the safe space so to ensure that everybody can be included because they're allowed to have a voice in this safe space. Well, I don't see any questions today. So if anybody would listen to us have a questions, put down, and then we'll come back to you, or we'll try to answer if you have a question now. And I really want to thank you, ladies, for being here with me today as we conclude our discussion on amplifying minority voices. And just a quick summary, we started with saying what's the experience like. And I heard a very interesting thing. Stop thinking about minority, but differences. And it's about everyone, serving everyone. There's no differentiation. Even though we are different size, different gender, different shape, we're different, whatever the difference is. And it's about that perspective, the elements, and all part of that recipe. And again, respecting the space, celebrating the difference, taking care of one another, not just to serve. Keep on going, moving. The pipeline had to be going, is an ongoing piece. Well, it's from that it's becoming a household conversation rather than an official conversation. Impact is always there. So how can I help? Happening everywhere. I think there's a lot there that we say today. So I hope that those who have missed will listen and post your questions. And I'm sure our lovely ladies here will be happy to answer, including myself. Anything else you want to add before I close for today's?
I do. I just want to make sure that that SOS goes out to all those leaders. You guys have those golden keys right now. Utilize them to better our workforce pipeline. Don't worry about that end dollar because that end dollar might not be there for much longer. So put on those big girl panties on, that super cape on, whatever you want to call it, and let's move and let's make sure these policies can stand time.
Thank you. So until then, all right. So until then, we will see all of you next week then.